This segment is brought to you by Les Stanford Cadillac Chevrolet in Dearborn, Michigan. Please visit lesstanford.com.
Hey everyone, welcome into Inside the PizzaOven. I am Fredi the Pizzaman. Joining me today, former Michigan State Spartan, Anthony Ianni. What's up, Anthony?
Hey Fredi, how you doing, man?
Very good, man. I got you in my domain right now. My 12 hours of my life is right here, and you're here.
I love it, man.
I got to get maybe a basketball rim right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we shoot some free throws.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. But before that, you got to grab my apron because I'm putting you to work.
You got it, man.
All right. We're gonna have you make a pizza, and I'm gonna make some cheese bread, and I'm gonna have you make a pizza. You can pick whatever you want, and then we're just gonna talk. We'll talk life, right?
Sounds good, man.
Absolutely. So the first thing I got to ask you, and it's probably gonna bring a giggle to your face, but when I say Draymond Green, what do you think when I say Draymond Green?
Leader, man. I mean,
leader.
He's without question maybe one of the greatest leaders that I've been around during my time at Michigan State.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and just like the work he puts into, like whether it was his college career, NBA career, it was just a joy to be around because I was at the draft party the night he got drafted.
Yeah.
And so when they picked him, like when the Warriors picked him like 32nd or 35th or whatever, like I was like, okay, like, you know, they're getting a guy who basically is going to be a hardworking guy and he's going to be one of the greats. And so,
Were you surprised he went down in the second round?
I thought he was like a mid to late first round pick. But then when I saw guys like Andre Drummond get on board and then like, you know, Anthony Davis is a great player, but I was like, yeah, Draymond's like still top 15. So everybody was surprised, like everybody was. So, but just seeing where he is now, like it's incredible to see.
I'm gonna have you put sauce on yours.
Oh, yeah.
Put it however you want. This one, I'm just gonna put some cheese. Oh, you're a lefty, huh?
So it's actually weird because I shoot right-handed.
Oh.
So I eat left-handed. I talk on the phone left-handed, but then I shoot right-handed and I write right-handed.
How about golf?
Right-handed.
Right-handed.
Baseball right-handed. Like,
incredible.
All the above.
You know, they say the great ones are left-handed, right?
It's true.
There you go.
Man.
So there you go. So Draymond Green. Now, if people out there watching don't know, Anthony Ianni is the first player in Division I basketball to play with autism. And when I bring up Draymond Green, apparently you didn't tell the team that you had autism.
I did.
It was Draymond Green's, I don't know how the story, but you tell the story how that all came out.
So it was going into my my second year at Michigan State. So whenever the freshmen come in every year, they had to do something called a VO2 workout.
Yep.
And what a VO2 workout is like they measure like your body weight, your body fat, and like how much blood sugar you have, and then they put you on a treadmill for a certain amount of time to see how your lungs take it.
Yeah.
So you only do it once. You only do it once in your entire basketball career. Whether it's, I mean, I did it at Grand Valley State when I went there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I had to do it at Michigan State again because I was a new member. But then the next year when the freshmen did it, you know, Draymond was joking with me about it, but I couldn't tell if he was serious or not, and it really bugged me.
Yeah.
To the point where, you know, I almost basically threw a fit, and I was wanting just to knock his head off because I was so upset with him.
Yeah.
And that's when Mike Vorkovich, our strength and conditioning coach, I mean, he's known me for, 21 years. He's known me since I was 9, 10 years old. So he knew about me. And so he pulled Draymond aside, and he told Draymond that, I was on the autism spectrum. And here's why I couldn't understand his jokes, because I'm very black and white. That's just how I see things.
Absolutely.
And after that, Draymond came up to me the next day and said, hey, why didn't you tell me all this? And my reason was because I didn't know how guys on the team were going to take it. I didn't know how you were going to take it. I thought you were going to be like some other people I knew in life who just treated me differently from it. And that day changed our relationship forever. And we became better friends and better teammates from that little incident, So.
And we're in 2020.
Yep.
Right. So when that happened, then we're talking what,
2000, summer of 2010.
How much has the word autism changed in the last 10 years? You're a great ambassador for autism awareness. How much has it changed in the last 10 years?
It's changed a lot because, we're getting more advocates in the community out there promoting more awareness. But as you know, Fredi, there's still more work to be done because there's still some folks out here in society that look at autism and go, it's a label. Like individuals like this don't have a future because it's autism. And I even get criticized a lot because people look at me, Fredi, and they'll just look at me as a normal individual who isn't one of those individuals on the spectrum. I had somebody say to me one time, you don't have those characteristics. I'm like, well, what characteristics are you referring to?
I know exactly what you're saying when you say that. I know what you mean.
So what does autism look like to you? Because as you know, the spectrum is massive.
Yeah.
There's a high end, there's a low end.
Yeah.
But what's really unique about all these individuals on the spectrum is that they're all unique in their own way.
Yeah.
And they're all talented. And Coach Izzo and I had a conversation about this after I graduated. His next door neighbor has a son on the autism spectrum who's very low functioning. I mean, he'll have to have help for the rest of his life, but he's a fantastic painter.
Yeah.
And his paintings are in the East Lansing Art Museum all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why I told Coach Izzo, I said, that's the thing, Coach, is that people don't give us a chance.
Yeah.
Because they just see us as a label, but, everybody in life has a label. I mean, you're the pizza man.
Yeah,
like,
I got a label.
That's a label,
yeah,
man.
Absolutely.
And as you and I know, we're both fathers, we're both husbands, those
Yeah.
are both labels.
Yep.
And, my biggest label I'm proud of is autism. And I'm proud to have that label for the rest of my life, and I always will be proud.
You bring up Coach Izzo, and we got to talk about Coach
Absolutely,
Izzo. So
man.
I'm a Michigan fan.
So is my wife. It's all good, man.
But
it's all good.
I love Coach Izzo. I love Coach D'Antonio. So, but we'll get into Coach Izzo. So, Anthony, let's put this masterpiece.
Let's do it, man.
You told me your wife's gonna be jealous because she's not making pizza.
Oh, yeah, she's gonna be really
next
jealous.
time you can make pizza over here. Okay, we'll bring it to the kids. That's my little trick. See, you gotta get it right off the thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Now we're gonna pop mine in. Man, I couldn't. You would break your neck if you were working here.
No, seriously, man.
Yeah.
You don't have ovens tall enough for this.
No, we'd have to put them on some stilts for sure. So you said something that kind of triggered me, and then again, I want to talk to you about Coach Izzo and stuff. But I hear a lot of times with my son, my wife and I, we hear, "Oh, your son's just going to be fine. He doesn't look like he has autism and this and that." And you hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And people are just not aware, and it's a label that I hate hearing myself. And you said it yourself, you hate hearing it too.
Yeah.
So I there has to be more awareness.
There has to be, and that's why, so our former Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley, Brian was the one who got the autism legislation and insurance bills passed because of his daughter, Reagan, who's also on the spectrum, and he invited me to speak at an autism gala in Detroit about 2 weeks before I graduated. And after I got done, I was driving my girlfriend, now wife, home at the time. And I asked her, I said, "I think I know what I'm supposed to do in life now." And she asked, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, let me ask you a question. Other than Dr. Temple Grandin, who's like one of the most famous individuals in the world with autism," I said, "other than her, name somebody like that in the autism community who's a big role model, leader, and icon for people like that."
Yeah.
She sat in 30 seconds of silence because she couldn't name anybody. And that's when I said to her, "All right, I'm going to go be that guy then. Somehow, some way, I'm going to go be that guy." So from that day forward, I made sure that I was going to continue to put the autism community on my back to make sure that they got the respect that they currently should deserve, and also make sure that they get the awareness and, basically, like you said, making sure the whole society knows that, hey, this is what autism is.
It's not a label.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a label.
It's not a label. And I'm with you. Because I feel that, I know I speak for my wife, it's, people are so unaware what's really out there. And instead of maybe get some awareness and understand what's going on, and early education is very key.
Exactly,
right?
it is.
Early education.
Yep.
And now relentlesstour.com. Tell us about that. That's big for you.
So the Relentless Tour is my own anti-bullying initiative I started here in the state of Michigan. And you talked earlier about making history in the NCAA. I made history with the anti-bullying initiative. It's actually the first ever grassroots initiative of its kind in the state of Michigan. So I started the Relentless Tour with a nonprofit out of Detroit, and then 2 years later, about a year and a half after I started, it went from statewide to nationwide, and then 2 years after I started, I got hired by the Michigan Department of Civil Rights to not only head up the anti-bullying initiative, but to bring the Relentless Tour to them. So in the last 2 years, I've spoken to close to 140,000 individuals around the country and around our state.
Amazing.
And over close to 400 events, whether it's schools, conferences, speaking to sports teams. So it's an anti-bullying initiative I'm proud of, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people in the country are doing right now as far as initiative-wise, but just getting that message of hope and inspiration and being the change you wish to see in life to those students out there is important.
When you're done visiting a school, what's some of the things you hear from the kids?
I hear about their own stories, their own triumphs and overcoming with bullies and their situations. I've had a couple students walk up to me saying that they were going to take their own lives the previous day, and then they heard I was coming in, and then it changed their whole life after that. And and it's not just the one-on-one interactions I have, it's the emails, it's the messages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram that, these students tell me about how, I inspired them to change in life or how I inspired their school. But I've always told those students at the schools whenever I talk, I'm not doing all that, because I'm there at a school for maybe 1 hour or 2 hours, and then I'm gone, and I move on to the next state or the next town or the next school. It's up to those students to make the change, because I tell them all the time, don't just go out and be the change, but go out and make the change you want to see in life as well. So, but that's my biggest, my biggest positive I have with what I do is just those interactions with those students, teachers, administrators, even ones who are on the autism spectrum. And it's funny, I was at Columbia Upper Elementary School this past week in Brooklyn, Michigan, and they brought in their autistic classroom. They had about maybe 5 or 6 kids in there, with autism, and about 5 out of the 6 made it through the whole presentation. And the teachers were telling me how those students have never made it through a presentation or assembly the whole year. Yeah. And so for me to hear that, they felt my presence. Yeah. And for me to hear that, it's really special. Yeah. It tells me, 1, I'm doing my job, but 2, the autism community is really starting to look out for other individuals who are trying to be leaders and role models.
That's relentlesstour.com, correct?
Relentlesstour.com.
Now let's check. Ooh, look at that. Look at that.
Oh, that's artwork. That is a beauty.
Look at that. Look at this. Your wife's going to be jealous.
Yes,
look
she
at
is.
that. That's pizza. That's pizza. There we go. We're going to take this out because that thing cooked fast. Let me pop it over here for now. Ooh. Let me pop this over here.
Right there.
There we go.
Wow.
We'll let it cool down for a second. And we'll cut those up. Look at that. You got a
That's
job.
artwork,
you got a job, man. Making pizza right there.
I love it.
There you go. When you were done with college, do you have any aspirations of coaching or coaching in the NBA or coaching in college?
I actually had I had 2 offers to go play overseas in Europe, but I turned them down because I started playing ball when I was 7 and then stopped when I was 23, so 16 years of ball was just long enough for me. Yeah. And I wanted to do other things in my life, and one of them was this, and get married to my wife, who's from the Detroit area, because we were doing like a Detroit to East Lansing relationship for 2 years, and I was like, no, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to come out to the east side, which best move I made. I love it out here. Because all I ever knew growing up was mid-Michigan, Okemos, Michigan, where I'm from, and then the west side, Grand Rapids, because I was at Grand Valley State for 2 years. But all I knew about the east side was Detroit and 12 Oaks Mall and Novi. That was it. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I turned down the offer. Now, I had people ask me, well, would you ever consider getting into coaching? I said, well, I'm not going to close the door on that opportunity, because if somebody wants to ask me to help coach their high school team, I'm going to take that offer. And so
you do a little bit with Livonia Churchill.
Livonia Churchill. Yeah. So I'm in my 4th year as the assistant coach for varsity girls basketball, because the guy I coached with, Kalen Morris, he was a teammate of mine at Grand Valley State.
All right.
And so he moved out to Livonia about 5 years ago. He heard I was in the area, and he and I went to a pizza dinner one night, and he just sat down and said, look, I need a post coach. Do you want in? I said, yeah, I want in. I'm in. So just being able to coach these girls, coach these students, and teaching them about what I was taught at Michigan State and what my dad taught me, it really is a blessing. It's a joy to work with those kids every day, because I learn something new from them every day.
And we're going to talk about your parents, because they were they're backbone for you.
They are.
Growing up. I got a nephew, soccer star at Livonia Churchill. So,
really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Let's cut the pizzas, and we got to talk about your courtship for your wife.
Let's do it.
And then we'll get into Tom Izzo. Maybe I'll cut it over. Let's cut it. I'm going to let you cut it over.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Just don't step on the spoon over there that I dropped.
Do it, man.
There you go.
You want to cut it in 4?
Whatever one time. That's good. Perfect. Right there.
Right there? All right,
absolutely. Cool. Yeah, we're going to eat that up. All right, come on. Let's head over to the table, and we'll have some pizza. All right, buddy. There's the creation that you made.
Good,
absolutely. It looks good. You're the pizza pro. I'm going to start calling you Anthony the Pizzaman. How about that?
I like it, man.
All right, absolutely. So when we were making the pizza, we talked about Draymond Green basically let the cat out of the bag.
Yep.
So when the team found out, what happened then with Coach Izzo?
So it is already knew about me and my diagnosis, because my father, who recently retired from Michigan State Athletics, he was at Michigan State for 26 years. So he worked with Coach Izzo, Coach Saban when he was there, Coach D'Antonio, Ron Mason, all those great guys. And so he had a really good idea about me and what my characteristics were, what made me click, what didn't make me click. And so, but when he heard about what had happened, kind of like me, he thought it was a blessing in disguise, because now the entire team, can learn more from me,
Yeah.
learn more about what autism is. And if they have any questions for me, don't be afraid just to open up and just let me know. And that way, I was not afraid anymore to ask one of my teammates, hey, was Draymond actually kidding or was he being serious? Do we have to do this? And they would just be straight up with me. No, he's just kidding. Don't worry about it. Or no, we got to be back here tonight at 9 o'clock for more free throw shooting. So that incident was definitely a blessing in disguise because it helped me become closer with my teammates and as well as my coaches.
Yeah, and I heard an interview with you not too long ago. You even brought up the term, or not a term, you brought up something. You didn't know how to take things literally or not literally,
Yeah.
and someone made a comment like it's raining cats and dogs, and you said, man, I looked outside and I was actually waiting for cats and dogs to rain.
It's true, because if you had told the 5-year-old me, like if the 5-year-old me was sitting right behind us and you said, hey, Anthony, it's raining cats and dogs outside, like I'm running out this front door hoping that cat or dog would fall into my arms. Because as a kid growing up, I took things very seriously, very literal. And not just idioms, but like nouns, verbs, sarcasm and jokes we talked about.
Yeah.
And even like loud noises. So like in schools, I had a tough time with fire drills because I hated the light, hated the sound. And luckily for me, in my IEP plan, my teachers had a plan in there where it's specifically stated, if there's a fire drill on a certain day at a certain time, let Anthony know ahead of time. Yeah. And so my teachers would just give me the heads up, and so I was prepared for it after that. But when I was maybe between 4 and 5 years old, I couldn't attend Michigan State basketball or football games because the environment from the arena and the stadium, the crowd noise, the horn on the buzzer, the lights in the stadium or Breslin Center, it was too much for me. And so I would have my hands over my ears. My head would be in my mom's lap the whole time because it was just too much for me. But how I overcame that was when I started to learn counting forwards and then backwards from 1 to 10 and then 10 to 1, I would look up on the scoreboard, and once it counts down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, once it got to 5, I would put my hands over my ears. And then when the horn went off, I would slowly take my hands off my ears. And if it was still too much for me, I'd put them back on. Yeah. And then every game I went to, whether it was football or basketball, I just kept doing that. Yeah. Same thing with the crowd noises. Like if a big play happened and the crowd went nuts, I would just do this, but then still just kind of hear it. So in a sense, Freddie, I was controlling the environment around me. Yeah. And so it got to the point where it went from here to, all right, cool, let's watch the game now. And then as a player, it was all adrenaline for me because I love playing, whether it was for Okemos, whether it was for Grand Valley, Michigan State, just playing in front of my friends, my teammates, and the community. I mean, that was probably one of the biggest honors and achievements, I think, bigger than any Big Ten championship or league championship that I was a part of.
If you or your family is touched by autism, learn more about Fredi's Foundation at #PopTheTap at FrediThePizzaman.com. That's FREDI, thepizzaman.com. Or email FrediThePizzaman@gmail.com.
You bring up the story about certain place you couldn't go. I remember specifically my wife and I, my son was starting kindergarten, Gen Ed, and he was terrified of mascots.
Yeah.
When he first saw paws, Tiger's paws, it was a full meltdown in front of the whole school, and it was tough because we didn't expect that. We didn't know, you know, and we had explained to my wife told the school, hey, we cannot have the mascot there when he first goes to school, which was orientation. Because if that's the first thing he sees, we might not get him back to school.
Right, yeah.
So we get there, and literally, not within 5 minutes, the mascot for the school comes out. Oh. And he had a full meltdown. And the meltdowns were tough for me. Okay, I'm the dad. I'm a dad with a son with autism. Right. They were tough for me because I hated the stares. I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated people staring and judging. It was more not me. It was judging my son. Yeah. I couldn't take it. My wife was the true hero. She tried to keep everything normal for my boy, for our boy. We couldn't go places. We couldn't go here. We couldn't go there because it was tough for him. She made sure that we tried to keep a normal family life. But we were terrified that when he saw that mascot, that he might not go back to school.
Right. Yeah.
And the first few months taking him, I got to tell you, he would not go that same door, and he would not go by the office because the mascot came out from the office.
Really?
So he would not go down that hallway for a while.
Yeah.
So I totally relate. People don't know. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing.
And it's funny you bring up your wife because my mom was the same way with me. And my mom actually took a full year off from work to help advocate for me and to make sure that I was getting the right resources and services that I needed to be successful in school. And, same deal. Like, she tried to make things, like, as normal as possible because, like, so I was born in Athens, Ohio. So my dad worked at Ohio University for 4 years and then accepted the job at Michigan State. So what they did was they tried to keep everything in our new house as almost the same as our old house. So, like, if my bed was by the windows, they would put my bed by the window.
Yeah.
I had darker shades of window blinds because, for whatever reason, I just liked that better. And so they stuck with the dark shades. And then once they turned my room into a Michigan State room a few years after that, it was green shades after that.
Yeah.
So, but like you said, for whatever it is, it's like whether it's whether your mom or my mom or our wives, like they try to make things as simple and as easy as possible and make sure that things like don't get bigger than they need to. And that's why I tell people every day, Fredi, like I'm blessed to have such a great support system in my life and, just great parents who taught me so much and continue to teach me a lot. And, that my family and my parents are the biggest reasons why I am who I am today.
Yeah, and again, me being a parent, I get it. And my wife, again, she keeps everything normal. And honestly, when we first found out that our son had autism, it didn't hit me. It did not hit me because I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And through my wife's hard work of finding schooling for my son, because obviously early education is the key.
Yep.
The minute I sat in that classroom and looked around, and it was a Thursday night, it was 8 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night, which it wasn't normal. We were sitting there, and I said, man, there's parents here, there's teachers here that want to teach my son. That minute, that second changed my life, and I realized, hey, you know what? My son has autism.
Yeah.
It was 3 months after the diagnosis that I realized, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I'll tell you that I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
You know. So, and that's I kind of want to stick there. Your mom and dad.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a lot about you. I've heard a lot about you. And the common theme all the time always goes back to your mom and dad, and even your sister.
Yeah.
Big support system. I mean, when I say your mom and dad, I mean, what do you say? What's the words that you have?
Again, blessed, thankful, and loved because, the day they were told, Fredi, when I was 5, the day they were told my future fate, the fate of barely going to graduate from high school, never go to college or attend a university, never be an athlete. And I come from family athletes. My dad played baseball at Michigan State.
Yep.
Mom was a 3-time All-American at Adrian College for basketball. I mean, she's big time. Like, she still holds like 9 records, school's all-time leading scorer.
She's the boss in the family.
Technically, yeah. I mean, if you told my dad that, he'd be like, yeah, I'm bottom man. She's up here. So, but and then my sister played volleyball at Michigan State as well. So, but when they were told that all those things, they could, and during that time period too, because 93 and 94, nobody knew what autism was, and there was no direction, no path of, okay, what are the resources? Because now there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of treatment centers out there, ABA therapy, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Where over 20 some years ago, that was never there. And so when they were told all this, they could have easily been like, we don't have a path, like let's just let it be, just let him be. But when they got to the third expert, my father stood up from his chair and said, look, like, I respect what you do, I appreciate what you're doing, but let me tell you guys what our expectations are for our son. He's going to go to high school and he's going to graduate. He's going to go to college and he's going to graduate. And he doesn't have to be an athlete to do all this. Like, if the good Lord wants to bless our son with those abilities, that's an extra gift. But he doesn't have to do all that. He had to be an athlete to do all these things. He's going to do it, and we're going to find a way. Yeah. And from that day forward, they found a way. And it was also Sandy McDonald, who's no longer here, but like she was a big reason why she helped my parents push forward because, Sandy McDonald, we talk about relentless story, like she was helping my parents be relentless and have that attitude of, hey, push the school system, push the administration, push the teachers to make sure that they follow everything in the IEP plan, to make sure he gets the accommodations he needs, to get the right resources he needs. So for them to continue...
We still need more.
Oh, yeah, we do, man.
We still need a lot more.
We do. And, my mom she was a teacher for I don't know how many years, like 20 plus years. And, and she still coaches varsity volleyball at Okemos. She's like in her 22nd year. But my mom loves to teach. And I told my mom this day, I said, you're retired now. I said, take a page out of my book, go be an advocate for parents who have individuals on the autism spectrum. Go be an advocate for teachers who are in this field. So you can give them your advice and what worked for me and pass that on to them. And so as far as I know, she really wants to get into it. So I'm like, hey, I know people at these conferences I go to. Let me call them and see what happens. So because I want both of them to pass on whatever advice they can give to parents. Like I pass down to kids and advocates and parents as well and educators, because a lot of the advice I pass down to others is from my own family. It's from my mom or my dad, because my father taught me in life, the harder you work, the more you earn. Yep. And I use that quote and that motto to this day. Yep. And I pass it down to other students, and they use it, and they just run with it. And so, like, I'm grateful. Even my sister, Freddie, I mean, my sister's 4 years older than me, and she was like, she was like the all-star of the family when it came to, school. I mean, she was basically a straight-A student. She was one of the top volleyball players in the state, recruited by all these great colleges and universities all over the country. She was runner-up for Miss Volleyball in the state of Michigan. But what I loved about my sister is, and still do love, she protects me no matter what. So if some of her friends were bullying me or teasing me because of some of the things that I said or did as a kid that they didn't understand, she was right behind me, sticking up for me, saying, hey, if you don't understand what my brother's trying to do or say, then just don't say anything. Because until you live with him, until you understand him, just keep it to yourself. Just don't say a word. And even to this day, like, she's a teacher at Okemos High School where we graduate and grew up. I live out in Livonia. Even though we're about an hour apart from each other, it doesn't change the fact that I'm still protecting her. She's still protecting me. She's protecting my two sons. I'm protecting her daughters, my nieces. And so, but that's what family's all about. And that's why I've always tell people wherever I go that, no matter where you go in life, no matter what you do, continue to hug your family every single day and let them know that you love them, because life is too short. I
have my 9-year-old daughter is a couple years older than my son, and I take them to school, and she has a chance to go stand in line with her friends. She stands in line with my son.
That's awesome.
And then she leaves a minute early before class is over. She grabs my son, and then she brings them out after I have a 6-year-old too, so she is very, very clingy with my son.
Oh yeah.
And she won't let anything happen.
That's awesome.
So, and if you don't know Anthony's story, you were diagnosed with autism at 4 years old, but we're not told until 14 years old.
Yeah. From
your family.
Correct.
Did they ever explain to you why?
Not really, but looking back on it, I think they did it because, one, if they would have told me if I was like in 6th grade or 5th grade, I was not mature at the time. Because I was in a resource classroom. I had a parapro with me on aid from kindergarten until 5th grade, and then I was in a resource room from 6th grade till I graduated. Still in a mainstream classroom, but like my resource room was like in a different part during the school day. Yeah. So in my resource room, I was with different students who had different learning disabilities, or who had autism, or who had ADD, ADHD, reading comprehensions, etc. And so I knew I had a learning disability because I was in the same room with all these individuals who had a learning disability, but I didn't know what mine was. And so some of the things that I said and did differently, or things I tried to do to make people laugh, but in the end, they weren't laughing with me, they were laughing at me, and I didn't realize that at the time until maybe I got to high school. And that's when my parents sat me down about 2 weeks going to my freshman year of high school and telling me. And looking back on it, they did it because, number one, I was a little bit more mature, but number two, I think they realized that this is something that can light a fire in him, and just to go out and prove the world wrong. Because they just sat me down on the couch and said, all right, we got to tell you something, and this is what it is. When you were 5 years old, a group of doctors and professionals, who talked about your autism diagnosis, they said these things to you, barely graduate high school, never go to college, never be an athlete, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know anybody other than God that can predict that.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the first things that came to my mind, Freddie, was why would you say that about a 5-year-old who didn't even know his numbers yet, who basically was just starting off to trying to write his name? Like, why? Like, why would you say that? But then, after that, sit down, talk with my parents, the only thing that came to my mind was, all right, now you know what you have, but the bigger picture is, let's go and shut these people up. Let's go and shut every single doubter and hater in this community up who don't believe in you. Let's just go prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And so I had this checklist in my mind, the checklist of graduate from high school, get a full ride scholarship somewhere, no matter where it is, preferably Michigan State, but doesn't matter where, and then graduate from college. So that's why I had some really close friends in high school, but then I didn't have like a girlfriend or anything in high school because I was so focused on just trying to prove the world wrong. Yeah. And at the same time, it's a blessing and it's a curse, but I have this chip on the shoulder mentality. I had it in high school, I had it in college, and I still have it to this day. And I say it's a curse sometimes now because, some people ask me, well, what do you have to work for? What do you, who are you trying to prove wrong now? So anytime somebody tells me I can't be the best at what I do as a speaker, it's like, all right, watch me. I'm going to go into this presentation tomorrow. I'm going to deliver the greatest speech that anybody's ever heard. I'm going to walk out of there knowing I impacted one person. So I have that chip on my shoulder all the time. If somebody tries to talk dirt about my family, yeah, I'm going to defend them, but I'm always going to have that chip on the shoulder. But my autism will never go away. It never will, because there are some.
I've actually heard that from people. People will say autism goes away. I've actually heard that.
Yeah, somebody said that to me one time. I'm like, no, it doesn't go away, because it sticks with you. Because there are some things, Freddie, that I may have some ideas or be a part of situations that I just can't let go of, and that's just part of me being on the spectrum. I can't let go of the little things in life, or just let go of situations. And so, but that's me. But I'm glad my parents told me when I was 14 the whole situation, because that started a journey for me that I am very proud to still be on to this day.
When I read that quote, and the first thing I thought of was, wow, that's a long time. But my son is 7. I couldn't tell him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't understand what I was telling him.
Yeah.
So I get why it might have been 14 years old.
Right. And I have parents, Freddie, whether it's at conferences or schools, who hear that story and go, well, we want to tell our son, but what's your advice? I'm like, hey, you're the parent. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Yeah. But if you think you want to tell them when they're 10 years old, go for it. If you think you need to wait till they get to high school, go for it. Because a lot of parents I talk to is they don't have a motivation. What's their motivation supposed to be? And I'm like, well, either send them my way, send them my story, or whoever their favorite athlete is. Whether it is Calvin Johnson, Miguel Cabrera, whether it's Allen Iverson, who I love watching growing up, find their stories and what motivated them to be who they are. And a lot of those students will basically just thrive off of that. I mean, Kobe Bryant's a prime example. I love watching Kobe growing up. And, one of our news stations back home called me to ask me about Kobe Bryant, and I said the one thing I loved about Kobe was the mentality he had, just to work hard and motivate every day. That rubbed off onto every single fan that loved him, and that's how it is.
Some people hated it, but they didn't understand his competitive.
Exactly, because they were like, oh, he's a jerk because he's doing this. Yeah. It's like, no, that's just his competitive nature. Yeah. And so Draymond's the same way. There are times where Draymond just does some things that just on the court, I'm like, what are you doing? But then as his teammate and friend, I look at that and go, that's his competitive nature. Whereas a fan who sees that thinks, why would you do that? But because it's just how he competes.
He called out Kevin Durant. He called his own teammate.
Oh, yeah. He called us out a bunch of times in the locker room, but it made us better as players and as teammates. And so that's why I've always told families, find your child's favorite thing in life, whether it's cartoons or whether it's Marvel or whether it's whatever, sports, and find about what they love about that sport, and then talk to them about a certain player, and use it as motivation every day.
Yeah. This might be a touchy subject, but there's a lot of wonderful ASD teachers out there.
Absolutely.
And when you have children that are in Gen Ed, don't you think there needs to be more education for the teachers that that have children in the classroom with autism and special needs?
Oh, Freddie, yeah, and
because they have it's almost like, and I don't mean to cut you off. They almost have there's a parapro in there, and that's it. Push them off to the para or her to the parapro. Mm-hmm. And I think that the teachers in all states there has to be more education, because autism, and as we talked with Eddie Murray previous in another episode, the numbers are going the wrong way.
They are.
Okay? So there's going to be more and more children with autism and special needs in regular classrooms, gen ed, right? So the teachers have to have more education.
And that's what we're doing today. And that's why I'm getting more interest from educators and teachers saying, hey, can you come in and talk to my staff about your life story and how you transition from your diagnosis to where you're at today? Because it helps when other teachers and educators learn from individuals who have been through it. Because now you teach those educators, here's what worked for me, here's what didn't work, here's what you could do. Because you're not telling them what to do, you're helping them, you're helping educate them. Because and I agree with you, Fredi, because there are some younger generation of teachers who look at an IEP plan and just go, oh, okay, but
give it to the parapro?
Yeah, or give it to the parapro, or they try to take shortcuts with it.
Yeah.
And you can't take a shortcut. And that's why I'm so thankful and blessed for the teachers I've had in my life, is that they didn't try to take shortcuts with me. They tried to stay on the path, whether it was a long path or a short path, and they stuck to whatever worked. If something didn't work for my IEP plan, guess what? We're going to try and do something else.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work, we'll find a way. And so whatever my teachers found and did, they just went ahead and stuck to it, because it was a team effort. It wasn't a certain teacher that did all of it. It wasn't my principal that did it. It was a team effort. And that team was comprised of my family, my mom, my dad, the principal, the counselors, the teachers, everybody who was involved. It was just a team effort. And that's what we have to do as far as educating educators and teachers, is that it has to be a team effort.
Yeah.
It can't just be about one person. It has to be about everybody in the process.
I almost feel like, just from hearing stories, that a teacher has 25 kids in their room, and one has autism. Well, you know what? I'm not going to change everything for one kid.
Right.
And just send him or her that way. You know, it just can't be that way.
No, it can't be, because
if the numbers are going the wrong way,
right,
then everyone has to come on board and fix it, right?
Exactly. And that's why, as an advocate, that's what I'm trying to encourage people to do, and I'm sure you are as well, is that we need to band together, pull together, and help take this thing in the right direction. Because if we all try to go do our separate things, our separate ways, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
It's just it's like basketball, for example. You have 5 guys on the court. You can't win a game having your point guard average 50 a game, because the other team's going to get 70 points or 80 points too. But you have to do it as a team. You got to do it together, because one guy can't take over the whole team or handle the entire load. They all got to do it and bond together. And that's what I loved about Michigan State too, is that it wasn't about one guy. It wasn't about an All-American. It was about the family that is Michigan State. And that's something that Coach Izzo taught us. That's something that Mark D'Antonio taught our football players at Michigan State, guys who I became good friends with. And that's what I've learned to pass on to schools, is that you're part of something here. And so embrace that. Take pride in that. So it's the same way in the autism community. Band together and let's try and do this thing and take it the right direction.
Well, you're a great ambassador for autism, and I'm telling you, if anything can get done, like we spoke of, you'll get it done. I know you will. Check back next week to see part 2 of our interview with Anthony Ianni.
Les Stanford Chevrolet Cadillac is a family-owned and operated full-line Chevrolet Cadillac dealership located in downtown Dearborn, Michigan. For the past 50 years, Les Stanford has been dedicated to excellent customer service in sales, service, and auto body repair. We have all the resources available to make a fantastic car buying and servicing experience. This includes a massive selection of Chevrolet, Cadillac, and certified pre-owned inventory to choose from, free loaner vehicles for service and collision center customers, and a finance source for every type of credit situation. Come experience the Les Stanford Chevrolet Cadillac difference today by visiting our showrooms in Dearborn, Michigan, or shop online at lesstanford.com.